My name is Lyra Kingsley, and I'm 32 years old. Last Christmas Eve changed everything when my family gathered at my parents' house in Boston. The tree sparkled with ornaments, holiday music played softly, and everyone was exchanging gifts, everyone except me. "No gift for you this year," my mother announced with a smirk, "since you never contribute to the family anyway." The irony of her words would soon become apparent, because what they didn't know was that I had just sold my tech startup for $8.5 million. Before I tell you how I turned their smug dismissal into the most satisfying moment of my life, take a second to subscribe and share where you're watching from. Because this story isn't just about money, it's about standing your ground when everyone tells you you're wrong. I sat there, watching my siblings open their expensive presents. My older sister Diane showed off her new designer handbag, while my younger brother Marcus excitedly unwrapped the keys to a new car. My parents beamed at them with pride, completely ignoring my presence on the worn leather couch. The room smelled of cinnamon and pine, but beneath the festive atmosphere lay years of judgment and disappointment. My father, Dr. James Kingsley, chief surgeon at Boston General, and my mother, Dr. Eleanor Kingsley, renowned pediatrician, had built their reputation on medical excellence. Their children were expected to follow suit, no exceptions, no deviations. That Christmas Eve, as they sipped their expensive wine and exchanged self-satisfied looks, I felt the weight of the certified check in my coat pocket. $8.5 million. The exact amount they'd soon discover I was worth. I smiled, knowing their perfect family narrative was about to shatter. Growing up in the Kingsley family meant one thing: medicine was our destiny. Our house in Beacon Hill was a shrine to medical achievements, walls lined with degrees, awards, and photos of my parents in white coats saving lives. Dinner conversations revolved around surgical procedures and patient cases. My siblings thrived in this environment. Diane became a neurosurgeon. Marcus was finishing his residency in cardiology. I was supposed to be next. I made it through 2 years of medical school at Johns Hopkins, maintaining the perfect Kingsley facade. But every night while my classmates studied anatomy, I was coding, building something I believed could revolutionize how small medical practices operated. I saw the chaos in my father's clinic: overbooked appointments, frustrated patients, burned-out staff. Technology could fix this if someone just built the right solution. The day I told them I was leaving med school, our family dinner turned into a war zone. "You're throwing away generations of legacy!" my father roared, his face red with anger. My mother's disappointment cut deeper. "I always knew you were different, Lyra. Just didn't realize you'd be a failure." Those first months were brutal. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in Cambridge, living on ramen and coffee. My savings dwindled as I built prototype after prototype. Every family gathering became an exercise in humiliation. "How's your little computer project?" they'd ask, voices dripping with condescension. "Still playing with apps while your siblings save lives?" Even when I landed my first investor, they dismissed it. "Small-time money," my father scoffed when he heard about the $50,000 seed funding. "Wouldn't cover a month of real medical training." Their words hurt, but they also fueled me. Every criticism became motivation to prove them wrong. I poured everything into developing FlowCare, my healthcare scheduling app. While my family thought I was playing with computers, I was revolutionizing how small medical practices operated. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was fixing the very problems I'd witnessed in my father's practice, but he was too proud to see it. My tiny apartment became command central. Whiteboards covered every wall, mapping out user interfaces and patient flow algorithms. I hired 2 brilliant developers, Sarah and Mike, who believed in the vision as much as I did. We worked 18-hour days, fueled by energy drinks and determination. The first version was rough, but it worked. I kept our successes quiet. When FlowCare got its first 5-star review from a small clinic in Seattle, I celebrated alone. When we hit 100 users, then 1,000, I didn't tell my family. At Thanksgiving dinner, while they bragged about Diane's latest surgery, I silently checked our app's analytics. 25,000 patients managed successfully that month. The breakthrough came when Dr. Patricia Chen, a respected practice management consultant, discovered FlowCare. She called me personally. "This is exactly what the industry needs." Within weeks, she'd recommended us to her entire network. Our user base exploded. Revenue started pouring in, but I maintained my modest lifestyle. My family still thought I was struggling, barely making ends meet. At Christmas last year, my mother offered me money for proper clothes. I was wearing a simple sweater that cost more than her designer dress, but she didn't need to know that. The real validation came when Harvard Medical School added FlowCare to their practice management curriculum. My father's alma mater was teaching students to use my little computer project. I kept that news to myself too, saving it for the perfect moment. The email from MedTech Solutions arrived on a Tuesday morning. "We're interested in acquiring FlowCare." I nearly spilled my coffee reading the number they proposed: $6 million, but I knew our worth. FlowCare wasn't just an app anymore. It was managing millions of patient appointments across the country. Small practices were reporting 40% increases in efficiency. We had something revolutionary. I spent 3 weeks in negotiations working with my team and lawyers. My family assumed I was still playing startup when I missed Sunday dinner. My mother's voicemail was classic. "Lyra, dear, maybe it's time to consider returning to medicine. There's no shame in admitting defeat." I saved that message. It would become precious later. The final offer came in at $8.5 million. When I signed the papers, my hands were steady, but my heart was racing. Sarah and Mike, my first employees, cried when I gave them their shares. We'd done it. All those nights of coding, all those doubts, all those condescending family comments, everything had led to this moment. I had the check certified and tucked it into a simple red envelope, a little Christmas surprise. The timing was perfect. The acquisition news would go public on December 26th, but my family would learn about it first. In the most unforgettable way, the night before Christmas Eve, I sat in my apartment rehearsing how I'd handle their reactions. I knew my mother would try to take credit. "We always knew you had potential." My father would suddenly become an expert in tech startups. Diane would probably choke on her wine. I prepared for every scenario, ready to stand my ground with the strength of someone who no longer needed their approval. I arrived at my parents' Beacon Hill mansion exactly at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, the red envelope tucked safely in my coat pocket. The house was decked out in its usual holiday extravagance, imported wreaths, crystal ornaments, and the scent of my mother's signature mulled wine filling the air. My Tesla was parked between Diane's Mercedes and Marcus's BMW, but no one had noticed I'd upgraded from my old Honda. "Oh, Lyra, you're here," my mother said, barely looking up from arranging perfectly wrapped presents under the tree. "We weren't sure you'd come, given how busy you must be with your computer things." Her pause spoke volumes. Behind her, my father was showing off his new Rolex to Marcus, probably another successful surgery celebration. The gift-giving ceremony was a Kingsley tradition, carefully orchestrated to showcase everyone's success. Diane went first, distributing expensive presents with elegant flourish. "From my latest bonus," she announced, handing our parents matching first-class tickets to Paris. Marcus followed with equally impressive gifts, including a rare vintage wine for our father's collection. When it was my turn, my mother waved her hand dismissively. "Lyra, dear, we know startups don't pay well. We didn't expect anything." The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Diane smirked behind her champagne glass, while Marcus suddenly became very interested in his phone. "Actually," I started, but my father cut me off. "Speaking of startups, did you hear about Dr. Richardson's son? Sold his medical software company for millions. Now that's how you do tech properly, not this small-time operation you're running." The red envelope felt heavy in my pocket. The tension in the room was building, each subtle jab and dismissive comment adding fuel to what was about to explode. I waited, letting them dig their hole deeper. "No gift for you this year," my mother announced to the room, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Since you never contribute to the family anyway." She turned to Diane, patting her hand. "At least 2 of our children understand the value of hard work and family legacy." Marcus chimed in, "Maybe next year, sis, if you finally give up this tech fantasy and return to medicine." The room filled with knowing chuckles. My father set down his wine glass, fixing me with his practiced disappointment stare. "Lyra," he said, his surgeon's voice in full effect, "you're 32 now. Isn't it time to stop playing entrepreneur and do something meaningful with your life? Your sister just performed groundbreaking surgery, your brother's research is being published, and you're still what exactly? Making phone apps?" That was it, the breaking point. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the red envelope. "Actually, Dad, I have one last gift. Since you're also concerned about my career choices, I thought you should be the first to know." I held out the envelope. My mother took it with perfectly manicured fingers, probably expecting a discount store gift card. As she opened it, the certified check fell onto her designer dress. Her eyes widened, face paling as she read the number. $8.5 million? She stammered. The room froze. Diane's champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. Marcus's phone slipped from his hands. My father lurched forward, snatching the check from my mother's trembling fingers. This can't be," he muttered, his medical authority crumbling. "FlowCare just sold for $8.5 million, I said calmly. "My little computer project is now part of MedTech Solutions. The news goes public tomorrow." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face cycled through shock, disbelief, and something I'd never seen before, respect tinged with fear. Diane set down her champagne glass so hard it cracked. Marcus was frantically Googling FlowCare on his phone, his medical journal forgotten. "Darling," my mother recovered first, her voice honey-sweet, "this is wonderful news. We always knew you had the Kingsley drive for success." She stood up, arms outstretched for a hug I didn't return. My father cleared his throat. straightening his tie. Well, he said, trying to regain control. I suppose your understanding of medical workflows from your brief time in med school helped. Really, our family's medical background made this possible. He attempted a proud smile that looked more like a grimace. No, I said firmly, feeling years of suppressed strength rising. You don't get to do that. You don't get to rewrite history and claim credit for something you ridiculed every step of the way. Diane jumped in, suddenly my biggest supporter. Lyra, we were just worried about you. Family looks out for each other, right? She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Funny, I don't remember any of you looking out for me when I was working 18-hour days, living on ramen, building something I believed in. Where was family then? The power in the room had shifted. My mother sank back into her chair, the check still clutched in her manicured hands. My father's authority seemed to deflate with each word I spoke. Marcus couldn't meet my eyes. The app you mocked? I continued, my voice steady. It's now being taught at Harvard Medical School. That small-time operation is revolutionizing patient care across the country, and I did it all without the precious Kingsley name. The news spread through our extended family like wildfire. Aunt Patricia, who had snidely commented about my computer hobby at every family reunion, suddenly started sharing FlowCare's success story on LinkedIn. Uncle Robert, a hospital administrator who'd never given me the time of day, called 3 times asking about investment opportunities. My phone exploded with notifications. The Boston Globe ran a feature. Medical school dropout revolutionizes healthcare scheduling. Harvard Business Review requested an interview. My LinkedIn profile gained thousands of followers overnight. Every medical practice management conference wanted me as a keynote speaker. The sweetest moment came when Dr. Richardson, whose son my father had praised just hours earlier, called to congratulate me personally. Your app has transformed my practice, he said. We've increased patient satisfaction by 60%. I made sure my father overheard that conversation at the next family gathering. My parents' desperate attempts to maintain control became almost comical. My mother started introducing me as my brilliant daughter, the healthcare innovator, to her country club friends. My father casually mentioned to his colleagues that he had inspired my understanding of medical practice management. I shut that down quickly with a simple press statement about being self-taught. Diane and Marcus shifted strategies too. Suddenly, they wanted to collaborate on future projects. Think about it, Diane said. Your tech combined with my surgical expertise. I declined politely but firmly. Marcus tried to pitch himself as my medical consultant, conveniently forgetting all the times he'd called my work childish. The family's social media underwent a complete transformation. Old posts dismissing tech startups disappeared. New ones appeared, praising entrepreneurship and innovation. My mother even changed her Facebook cover photo to a FlowCare screenshot, tagging me as my innovative daughter. Too little, too late. I moved into a beautiful brownstone in Back Bay, not to show off, but to give myself the space I deserved. My home office overlooks the Charles Rivera far cry from the tiny apartment where FlowCare was born. But success didn't change who I was. It just gave me the freedom to set boundaries I should have established years ago. Sunday family dinners became optional, not obligatory. When I did attend, it was on my terms. No more subtle jabs or condescending advice. The first time my mother started her usual criticism, I simply stood up and left. The shocked silence behind me was more satisfying than any verbal response. I found real connections outside the suffocating Kingsley circle. Sarah and Mike, my original developers, became true friends rather than just employees. We started a mentorship program for young tech entrepreneurs, focusing on women who, like me, were pursuing dreams others called impossible. The relationships I built were based on mutual respect, not obligation or status. The money brought freedom, but the success brought something more valuable: validation. Not that I needed it anymore, but watching FlowCare transform medical practices across the country proved what I'd known all along. Sometimes the black sheep sees things the flock misses. My father still occasionally tries to take credit at medical conferences, but now other doctors correct him. No, James, that was all Lyra's. Innovation. My mother's attempts to micromanage. My life fell flat when she realized I had a team of professional advisors who actually understood my industry. The greatest impact wasn't the money or recognition, it was discovering my own worth. I learned that success doesn't always follow the expected path, and family isn't always defined by blood. Sometimes, the people who believe in you when you're struggling are more family than those who claim you after you've succeeded. Looking back at that Christmas Eve, I realize it wasn't really about the $8.5 million. It was about standing up to people who try to define your worth by their standards. The money didn't change me. It revealed who everyone truly was, including myself. Sometimes the greatest gift is the strength to walk away from toxic expectations, even when they come from family. Today, FlowCare continues to evolve. We're expanding into AI-driven patient care, and yes, some of the hospital hospitals using our system are ones where my family works. I've learned to separate my success from their validation. When my mother introduces me at events now, I politely correct any attempts to take credit. When my father mentions family innovation, I calmly remind him of his initial dismissal. It's not about revenge anymore, it's about honesty. To everyone watching who feels pressured to follow a path that isn't theirs, remember this: your dreams don't need anyone's permission to be valid. Whether it's family, friends, or society trying to clip your wings, understand that their limitations shouldn't become yours. Success looks different for everyone, and the people who mock your journey don't deserve to celebrate your destination. If you're in that place right now, where everyone's telling you you're wrong, where your path seems impossible, know that you're not alone. Share your story in the comments below. Let's build a community of people who understand that the road less traveled often leads to the most extraordinary destinations. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because every week we share stories of people who dared to be different, who stood their ground, and who proved that success doesn't always wear a white coat. Sometimes it wears coding pajamas and runs on caffeine. Remember, the best revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's proving yourself right. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful revenge stories. And if you've ever faced betrayal or family drama, feel free to share your story in the comments, because your voice matters here.